and Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift, Chief Executive Officer of Bursa Malaysia, with us here today. And we look forward to hearing their insight during the ministerial and opening address. We are also excited to host over 20 exhibitors, they are all behind you, each representing different facets of the investment ecosystem, opening up new opportunities to learn, connect, and grow. In addition to this, enriching sessions and valuable investment insight which you will get, more than 20,000 ringgit worth of prizes are up for grabs. As we kick off this exciting 2 days, I encourage all of you to make the greatest investment, to invest in yourself, and to be wise and confident in growing your money. I wish you all a fruitful and insightful experience at InvestFair 2023. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much to CEO of Share Investor Group, Mr. Christopher Lee. Please be seated. Thank you so much. And up next, we'd like to invite the CEO of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift, for his opening speech. Datuk, please.
Very good morning. Yang Berhormat Tuan Muhammad Rafizi bin Ramli, Minister of Economy, Mr. Christopher Lee, Group Chief Executive Officer of Share Investor Group, speakers, audience, welcome. Go wild, clap. Actually, I'm very excited. When I was coming in, and I will digress what I do, I saw all these people queuing, and I thought, are they going left or right? If they're turning left, I'm going to have a problem. But luckily, you're all here with us. Now, first, let me begin by thanking the organizer, Share Investor Investing, for having Bursa Malaysia as a partner of InvestFair 2023, and for inviting me to speak this morning. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Yang Berhormat Tuan Rafizi Ramli, Minister of Economy, for taking time out from his busy schedule to join us. Your presence today, Yang Berhormat, clearly signifies to people from all walks of life it's important to take the first steps in investing in your future, and acknowledges the contribution of sustainable retail investment into the economy. Now, there's going to be a lot of discussion later about market outlook, investment strategies, digital innovation in the sessions that follow. But I'd like to touch on two areas: the importance of investor education and the efforts that we have at the exchange to improve your investing opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, despite experiencing volatile market conditions in recent years, Malaysia has maintained a robust domestic capital market, and as at the end of 2022, the total market capitalisation stood at 1.74 trillion ringgit, which is approximately 1 times the nation's GDP of 1.79 trillion ringgit. In addition, it continues to help us raise money to grow our companies in Malaysia. These positive developments provide retail investors with opportunities to diversify their avenues of wealth creation by accessing a wide range of asset-backed investment instruments. And as Malaysia strives to achieve high income status, it is imperative to encourage and democratise participation in the capital market. Prudent management and smart financial behaviour are essential components to ensuring your financial well-being over the long run. And I must say, the area we are concerned about, and as I think we all are, is the surge in investment fraud schemes and the emergence of non-accredited investment experts. This alarming trend poses significant risk to novice investors and seasoned investors. According to the statistics of the Commercial Crime Investigation Department of the Royal Malaysian Police Force, a total of nearly 72,000 fraud cases amounting to more than 5.2 billion ringgit in losses were reported from 2020 to May 2022. Among these cases, nearly 12,000, or approximately 70% of them, were related to loans and investment fraud. More recently, the National Scam Response Centre reported receiving over 30,000 calls since being established with their hotline from October 2022 to April 23. By a simple average, this is 150 calls per day. Out of these calls, in half a year, the National Scam Response Centre, nearly 12,000 were fraud victims, reporting total losses valued over 100 million. Considering the cases, the increasing number of investment fraud cases, it's important for you to equip yourselves with knowledge. Now, there is a deluge of information sources for investors, and so please be careful as you access social messaging apps, social media sites. Both young and old, many of us are probably among those frequent users. These platforms can be very useful, but they're also a breeding ground for those playing the field with ill intentions. You can see my picture. You will have seen it on Facebook. I'm hosting many sites. They're not me. We go through a process of taking them down. I take one down, two go up. Now, please, please, please be wary. Many of my friends will reach out to me, give me the sites and the references, but maybe I shouldn't use this picture anymore because it's the one that's used on Facebook. It's designed to build trust. It is designed to reach out to you. It is designed to get your personal information. So, because of the nature of scams, please reach out to Versa. We have verified accounts actually in Facebook, funny enough, but also in IG, in Telegram, and just ring Versa to you. If you're in doubt, please query. SC also runs a hotline. Now, we can provide this, but the most important thing is knowledge. And that's why we're here today, echoing Philip's comments. We're here to equip you with the knowledge that you need to invest wisely. Now, at the exchange, we have Bursa Marketplace, we have Bursa Anywhere, we have many different apps that you can use. But what I would encourage you to do is be skeptical. And before I pass the floor to young Bahuma, just remember, I leave you with one thought. If something looks too good, it truly is too good. Be wary. Now, I'm an old banker, and when we were in the bank, we lend money, of course. So we borrow money from the public, that's your deposits, and we lend it. But when we lose a ringgit, how long does it take us to make profit to make that back? Let us now say these are not actual figures, but I just want to explain the nature of the problem. Say we charge interest and we're paying 3%. We then charge, let's call it 6%. Then I have overheads, I have running costs. At the end of the day, the net margin to the bank is 1%. I lose one ringgit, it takes 100 years to make that money back. Just think about that the next time you see something that is too good. Equip yourselves, knowledge, it is your friend. At the exchange, we're here to help you. We believe in democratizing investment. Our ambition is for every Malaysian investor to enjoy that private banking experience. We build platforms, we work with partners such as Share Investor to do that. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to CEO of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Dr. Muhammad Umar Sweet, for his welcoming address. Today, we are so honored to invite our guest of honor, the Minister of Economy, Yang Berhormat Tuan Muhammad Rafizi bin Ramli, to join us today. Right here, let us give a big round of applause to welcome our guest of honor, the Minister of Economy, Yang Berhormat Tuan Muhammad Rafizi bin Ramli, for his ministerial address. Baby, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift, CEO of Bursa Malaysia, Secretary Lee, CEO of Share Investor Malaysia, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I find it quite awkward to be here today because I don't belong to the kind of crowd who usually go to events like this. There are two types of people who want to grow the money. We all want to grow money, but there are two types of people generally. The first type are people like you who, as Dr. Umar mentioned, put efforts to really find the best value and the most genuine ways to grow your money. The second type is the people like me who are lazy. I put all my money into the pot. So I don't have the thing about the nitty-gritty of picking which counter to do. But it's as Dr. Umar mentioned just now, retail investors are a crucial element to growing our economy and helping businesses grow together with the country. So thank you very much for inviting me and having me today. This sounds a bit dry, especially when I have to compete with so many things happening in this hall and the other hall. But give me a bit, almost like 15 minutes, just to at least explain what we are trying to do with the economy. Because as retail investors, it is very important to align your bets with the right companies that are growing in alignment with where the country is going. The strategy of running an economy is not unlike an investment strategy. I've been in different tasks and different positions throughout my career. I've been in a huge organization. Sorry, Siri always do this. I've been running my own startup. So I understand the pain points of private companies trying to grow and offer value. And now I'm running the long-term macroeconomic planning for the country. So it's not that much difference. Of course, there are intricacies, but more or less it's about managing our limited resources. We have limited resources and we have to think about the trade-offs and opportunity costs when we decide where to place our bets. It's the same with you finding the counters, is the same with us running the economy. We have a time horizon ahead of us, and timing our investments right will make a huge difference. Most of all, whether in economic strategy or investment strategy, the oldest rule is that the actions that we take now will have an enormous impact on the future. That's why people always tell me where to go. And that's why part of the reasons I dabble into startups before I took this job. Because my view is this: for people who came in late, you make money, but not as much. The real skill is looking at something that other people have not seen or have the foresight of how the value will grow in the future. Having the right skill, right understanding, right assessments, then you will be able to see these hidden gems, and by knowing this and putting your money in it, not only that you will make money, but you will also help the company, the economy offers a much more value multiples in the future. People who invested in Apple now make money, I suppose, but not as much as those who started all those years back. In the same way that people who put money in tech companies like Google 25 years ago make a lot more money than those who just realize that tech counters offer multiple values in the future. So that's the view, and also that's the discipline that we have at our ministry. We know the task is to look at these hidden potentials, knowing our strength, take a very long-term view and grows it. There will be a lack of understanding in the beginning, but eventually the country, the economy, retail investors like you will be able to understand the kind of value creation that we intend to focus, at least in the next few years. The Ministry of Economy is a coordinating ministry that is tasked to do long-term planning that will fundamentally change the structure of our economy. The decisions we make today will have a compounding effect on the future, and that's my difficulty. Because my ministry and my job is not designed to simply fulfill populist pledges, like giving more handouts under different names or announcing expensive mega projects that only benefit certain groups of people. We've done this for the last 20 years. And we have that difficulty now because society has become accustomed to it. The measure of economic plans to sections of our society is how much more money governments will announce to go directly to your pocket. The more you announce, the more you are seen to be a better manager of the economy. A few years back, well, not a few years back, but 10, 15 years back, the approach was to go on massive mega projects, especially infrastructure projects, that created excitement with investors, but left the country with 1.6 trillion debts. So, just like all of you, I'm constrained by all this. We are not going to do what we have done in the past because the trade-offs and the costs were too much for future generations. But we are confident enough to know that if we do this right, if we no longer think of growth in terms of, not just in terms of pure GDP numbers, but we also have to account for the quality, pace, and sustainability of the growth. These are the kind of economic robustness that will bring back the luster to our economy and will have a spill over to the stock market. That means when we assess how our economy is going, we must account for the holistic changes that are planned and undertaken and not simply resort to bite-sized, knee-jerk snapshot approach of what has happened. That's also my difficulty. Just like Dr. Omar mentioned, is about financial literacy, is about awareness for investors like you. We have a bigger task at the government to bring this kind of understanding and appreciation of a long-term view of economic robustness. Of course, in the short term, there will be ups and downs, and we are going through very difficult weeks for the last few weeks. This happens. As well as we will be going through implementing challenges when we focus on long-term structural reforms. Then we also have external headwinds, and those are all outside our control. These are the natural facets of the economy. The global economy is like that. It will happen that in the natural cycle of the global economy, it will have its ups and downs. But to assess accurately how we are doing, And I keep repeating myself to everyone every day about this, because we need to change how society views economic planning, economic growth, for us to be fair and to be competitive in the long run. We must take a long-term view and see whether this government is undertaking the necessary... Hang on, I actually have a problem with my Siri. It's trying to talk to me. Hang on, This is a problem when your key points are actually on your iPad. That's why I don't buy Apple stock. I have this love and hate relationship with Siri every now and then, either at my Apple Watch or at my iPad or at my iPhone or my MacBook. Anyway, now coming back to that, of course, the short-term stabilization measures were also done, and I hope as we go month by month, you will see this, and we will be able to roll this out to keep everything under control. This government came into power at the peak of global inflation, where food prices soared to historic heights. By focusing on a series of stabilization measures, as much as cost of living remains the highest priority of everyone, we have seen inflation numbers have come under control. And we have seen 11 straight months of moderating inflation, and my view is that it will continue to moderate. The GDP growth has also exceeded expectations. And this provides us a window of opportunity. And the window of opportunity that we have earned from this stabilization is necessary so that we have time and space to undertake longer-term structural measures. Ladies and gentlemen, now, we've been talking about structural measures all the time. What are these in the context of the Malaysian economy? This is my view, and this is what the government is trying to do. Structural reforms are the opposite of running things business as usual. We've communicated this to government departments. We've worked with our partners. Not only that the policy has to change, even the manner that we conduct ourselves, our interface with our stakeholders also have to change from the business as usual approach that has been there for the last 2-3 decades. It is a dramatic shift to how the country, industry and market operates. The need for structural reforms have become irrefutable. Everyone talks about it, to the point that sometimes it creates a cynicism in society, because Malaysia has been talking about structural reforms for almost 2 decades. We know that our country's growth will be affected if we continue to incur high debts with high committed payments taken away from actual development. We know the situations with the debt. We know the situation with the debt servicing charges that we have to incur every year. We also know if we continue to operate in a low-skill, low-value, low-wage environment, that's not going to work anymore. And we also know if society's inequality remains persistent and social safety net stays neither adequate nor sufficient, that's also not robust as far as our growth is concerned. So these are all the constraints and parameters we have to work with for the economy and the macro planning to make sure that we move the needle consistently. And I hope our industries, our companies understand that in this march for structural reforms, we need everyone to be on board. For those of you who look at the global stock market, you would also accept that Malaysia's stock market profile does not carry the same luster as other countries. We all know that. I check Bloomberg every day, 3 to 4 times a day. I make sure that I have food at hand when I check Bloomberg, because it can be quite depressing in the last few weeks. The stocks that dominate our counter reflect our past history than giving an exciting promise of the future. And I've been quite blunt about it. When I talk to retail investors, fund managers, we have to accept that while Malaysia's companies on Bursa offers steady growth, security of returns, but I suppose because we want to grow our money, it's always about looking for those counter, not just for the steady growth and security of returns, but the kind of counters that gives a glimpse of the future. And we have to do a lot more to grow the economy so that our Bursa can feature and offer these exciting companies and corporations to investors. My discussions with fund managers, bankers and investors prove to me that technology and innovation must gain prominence once again in our economy if we want to lead the region. And that, I hope, explains the kind of focus the Ministry of Economy has been giving in the last 6 months. Because a lot of people don't really understand what structural reforms and value creation for the long term is all about. I have difficulties explaining to people that when we talk and debottleneck the ecosystem for tech, digitalization and innovation, it is not because I want to be the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. That's not my job. I'm not the regulator. I don't intend to be the Minister for Communications and Digital. That's their job. But we understand enough for us to grow and pivot the economy, tech, innovation, and another area is renewables. These are key thrusts of the economy, and we need to do more to bring more businesses, more workforce, more people to be involved in all these high-value, high-growth sectors so that Malaysia can lead the region. And these are the few things that we are focusing as part of our structural reforms in the next few years. One, we have undertaken vital institutional reforms in stemming out corruption and practicing high standards of governance. No developed country has succeeded to rampant corruption and institutional distrust. We all know that. Setting this right from the start was a key reform that we have pushed. When we first formed the government, there were many questions about why the Prime Minister took the position of Finance Minister himself. It was part of a grand plan. We knew enough that the easiest but the most difficult task of all the reforms that we have to do for the economy is governance. Because it is about building the trust and confidence back into the economy. The Finance Ministry handles the procurement for the government. The planning, the budgetary, the process, everything else is done at different ministries, but only the Finance Ministry can award projects. The final sign-off is actually at the Finance Ministry. That was why in the past everyone wants to be a Finance Minister, because you have the power to choose or, well, you know the rest. That means that you have to deal with monsters. The status quo of vested interests who have benefited from government procurements and public purse all these years. Now, I may have the background in finance. Anyone else may have the background in finance. But the trick about being a very good finance minister to bring back the confidence in the economy is not whether you really understand your macroeconomics. It's about managing government's procurement to make sure that we drastically plug the leakages. And who better to do that than the most senior chief executive in the country? And that's the reason why the Prime Minister is a finance minister, so that he can focus on stemming out corruption very quickly, not just because it will save us money, but because it is very important as part of a grand plan for economic reforms to quickly get back the confidence and trust from the market and from society. That's why, if you have noticed, the Prime Minister has focused a lot on corruption, on integrity, on governance. Because while we can plan, while we can have so many blueprints, our litmus test is how the market and society responds to those blueprints. And that's very much about the intangible trust and confidence that, unless we very quickly show it in the way that we manage our procurement, our project, we manage our fiscal responsibility, all the other blueprints may just become blueprints and never see the light of the day. That's why the second reform that I think we have done considerably well in the last 6 months is the fiscal responsibility. We've done fiscal consolidation in ensuring that the government spends prudently and fairly, so that we could reduce our fiscal deficit and ensure financial sustainability in the long term. This may not be talked about too much from the financial circle. There's a lot of talks about it, about subsidies retargeting. The efforts of retargeting subsidies is important, so that the most deserving people receive the help they need, and we reduce instances of wastage and abuse. We all know that. This has been spoken for the last 20 years. And I'm proud to be a part of an administration that finally walked the talk despite the possible political costs that we have to endure. If we could keep our target of reducing the fiscal deficit to 3.5%, and we are extremely committed to that, retail investors may not be as particular about it, but bond investors, institutional investors are extremely particular about our commitment to reducing our fiscal deficit, because it is a measure of how serious we are about governance. So if we can keep this to the 3.5% deficit reduction target in 2025, while at the same time meeting our GDP growth targets, I'm sure the confidence will come back to our economy as foreign investors, local entrepreneurs, retail investors like you will believe that this government walks the talks and we are serious in reforms, albeit all the political costs that we have to go through in the next 1 or 2 years. And of course, the third reforms is something that I've been talking for the last 6 months, is to make sure that our resource allocation for the nation pivots to high growth, high value sectors, such as the technology, the renewable energy, and food tech and food security. For these three areas, we stand a real chance of taking a leadership position in this region. if we set the right path forward and we stick to it. And I've repeated it over and over again, nothing great can be done without a few must-haves. First, you must have the first few people who really believe it. That you believe this can be done, no matter how difficult and no matter how loud the noise of detractors out there. And secondly, the must-have is that you must have someone who have a thick skin to avoid and to ignore all these noises, because you must stay long enough on the problem. It will take some time to move a needle in the beginning, and it will go through an inflection point, and from there on, it will take its course on its own. These are the chosen focus area because the opportunity sizes are among the largest. And if we succeeded, the compounding returns that bring forth the developments of other industries will be the highest as well. I was in Qatar, at the Qatar Economic Forum last week. I was very encouraged with the positive vibe and interest that we have, because I have to shuffle between a cynical society that we have here. We've had 20 years of not being able to pull off what we intended to do. So when we went to Qatar and we say that we want to be a regional leader and the nerve center for energy transition in this region, there was a lot of excitement. And part of the excitement, because they knew that we are coming out with a series of roadmaps with specific projects and investment value that they can participate. They knew that for us to be a regional leader in energy transition, the country will have to invest $150 billion in the next 25 years. And that excites everyone. And that's the kind of structural reforms that we hope we will be able to continue in the next few years. And the final part, this is the part that most probably most companies or employers will cringe, and it will cost us some political support. With all the things that we are doing, you can do governance, you can do fiscal consolidation, we can continue to grow, we can move the resource to the high growth, high value sectors, but we cannot achieve the sustainable and robust economic growth that we aim for if we don't go through a generational labor reforms. Labor reforms are critical to change the talent pool in the country. And that's one key pillar of what we are doing at the Economic Ministry. It's not because I want to take over the Minister of Human Resource job. It's very economy. Talent pool and workforce is the catalyst that we need to pivot to the next level of value. So, let me try to put it in condensed elements. We understand that even if we rightly identify the strategic business and put long-term money and commitment into growing them, we could not succeed without having the right skills and talents. And foreign direct investments look more for the quality of workforce than the infrastructure that you offer nowadays. Granted that this is a very difficult and continuous task, that even the most developed countries have not fully grasped how to go about this, given how quickly in demand skills are changing. But that also means that our country stands an equal chance of succeeding in building a sustainable and reliable talent pipeline, provided we undertake skills programs at a large scale. We need depth, quality, flexibility in our programs, But the one insight that could not be ignored, this is the bit that I think we will do very differently. People talk about quality, people talk about syllabus, people talk about many things, but you may have the quality, you may have the resources, everything, but at the stage of our economy now, we can only move the needle if we do it at a national scale. Scale is the biggest challenge of all when it comes to improving our workforce and skills. Something that is sizable enough to make a meaningful difference to the structure of the economy. And the best part of my job is this: while all these are great challenges, I take comfort in one thing. For the first time in a generation, our unity government is the stablest, with a 2/3 majority that can allow people like me and my ministry and other stakeholders, people like Dr. Umar, for us to get down to business and focus on the reforms that we have to put in the next few years. Ladies and gentlemen, there is, and this is an opportune time to get structural reforms, because technology is also at its sweet spot between cost and value. The speed of advancements and government investments through the decades in other parts of the world have meant that technology cost is low enough for widespread adoption in Southeast Asia. As proven time and time again, the acceleration to economic growth is the highest when tied with technology and innovation, and government intends to lead technology acceleration with the rolling out of GovTech in the months to come. Therefore, I am actually quite optimistic. I was asked over and over again, what do I feel about the prospect of Malaysian economy? I've maintained that I'm cautiously optimistic. Cautious because there are things out of our control. The global headwinds, the concerns about global economic slowdown, how things are in China, this will continue to impact us. But optimistic because we know what we are doing. And I hold true to those two things, that you need early believers, you need committed people in the beginning, but you also need to stay long enough on the problem. And I think with the majority and the stability that we have in this country now, we will have enough time to pull this off. Therefore, let us be reminded that the actions we take today, my actions, Christopher's actions, your actions, will have a substantial impact on the future. That is also true for investing. I hope you understand and can align how you want to park the money with how the government intends to pivot the economy. The fruits of labor of our work will only be evident in the next 2 to 3 years to come, and in fact for some reforms maybe even longer. But I hope that when we put the foundational pieces together and bring the private sectors on board, you could appreciate the moment in history and know that we are in the right direction. When I was in industry, and I was in the petrochemical and all that things, especially in the petrochemical, we knew one thing: economies go through a cycle. What goes up must come down. The best of companies are the ones who were robust enough to go through a downturn cycle and have enough capacity to build and prepare for the next upcycle. So the point that you go into with your next capacity building, with your next product, with your next market is extremely important, because you know enough to align as we were landing the down cycle, you've already started the work to build more capacities so that as demands picked up, 3-4 years down cycle, you are the first person to reap the benefits of the up cycle. That's my task. That's also your task, because as retail investors, you really need to know, unlike me who just depend on robocall, you really need to know when is to invest so that when discounters and the economy picks up later on, you got in at a much cheaper price so that you get the best margin when you exit. So with that, I welcome feedback and suggestions on how we can collectively steer our economy throughout this uncertainty for our common future. The government's obligation is to diagnose our challenges, anticipate the road ahead, and decide where to place our bets. Not that much different from your task with your money. The genius of the private sector is now that you know where the country wants to place the bets, the genius of the private sector and investors is finding the path to commercialization, to accelerate and to scale. And the government will continue to remain supportive by building an ecosystem that enables the best to thrive and create a safety net for those who missed, but we would rely on you to do what you do best, which is to find value. So thank you for having me for this event. I know it's a lengthy lecture, but we don't get to meet so often, and I hope you make enough money to pay tax in the next 1 year. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend.
Once again, thank you so much to the Minister of Economy. Young Muhammad, please remain on the stage because we're going to begin with proceed with the official start of our InvestFair 2023. Besides that, I'd like to invite the CEO of Share Investor Group, Mr. Christopher Lee, as well as CEO of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Dato' Muhammad Umar Swift. Let's give a big round of applause to proceed with the official start of InvestFair 2023. But before that, I'd like to invite all of you to count down together. We'll start from 10 until 1. That will be the time we officially start our InvestFair 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on my count of 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once again, I'd like to urge all of you, happy investing and grow your money lah. Right here, I'd like to invite our guests of honors. Please remain on stage. First of all, I'd like to invite the CEO of Share Investor Group, Mr. Christopher Lee, to present the token appreciation to the Minister of Economy, Yang Berhormat Tuan Muhammad Rafizi bin Ramli. Let's give a big round of applause. Once again, thank you so much to YB for attending our InvestFair 2023. And let's take a group photo together. Look at the camera, 3, 2, and 1. All right, 3, 2, and 1. YB, please remain on the stage as well. And up next, once inviting Mr. Christopher Lee, our CEO of Share Investor Group, to present the token appreciation to CEO of Bursa Malaysia Berhad, Dato' Muhammad Umar Swift. Let's give it up.
Kita online je, siapa tengok. Kita tak mic tepi ke? Kita siapa tengok. Ya, AWANI kan lah.
Pertama?
Pertama. Ya, apa pula? Kita orang tengok. Aduh. Kita online je. Korang follow ke? Ha? Korang follow ke? Malah. Panjang. Kalau dia cakap pendek, dia aku dah pergi lah. Kalau dia cakap pendek, dia cakap pendek. Macam mana? Ambil dah. Apa lagi dia blok muka? Lagi dia blok muka. Rendah kan? Rendah tu. Tapi paling rendah tu. Tapi apa ni free gift ni?
Tapi aku dia lawan aku nak kacau.
Aku risau juga yang tu. Lawan. Kalau kacau kan.
Test 1 2 3 1 2 3 test 1 2 3 no. Okey tak mic korang?
Try dulu.
Try dulu ah.
Lagu. Ni. Ya lagu ni.
Lagu ah. Nak nyanyi lagu aku test je lah. Elah. Test mic 1 2 3 1 2 3 test mic 1 2 3. Okey, boleh cun, mantap.
Test. Test, test.
We won't, hopefully we won't crash the market.
No,
Oh, it's Saturday, it's fine.
Philip, you joining?
Okay.
One more chair.
Get a chair, get a chair. Just shift a bit. Yeah, it's you know, the rise of the market will take care of itself, but what the government needs to intervene is on the early stage funding, because we can't be talking about innovation and tech or new
No, I was
growth
chatting with them
without
there, because that's a piece that's missing.
Yeah, there's a piece missing.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy that we have Rafizi, Dr. Umar and Christopher Lee for share investor. So maybe can we start the press conference. First of all, Rafizi, how are you today?
It's weekend.
But you're dressed
How do you feel about InvestFair?
Anyone who has to work on weekends will try to smile but not happy inside. Sorry, kidding. Sorry, yeah.
Alright, so maybe I can just open the floor for the questions.
Rafi, just now you mentioned about the government will hide Laila from RTM. Just now you mentioned in your speech that the government will make sure that inflation will be moderate and not up and also down. So what do you think about this?
Well, you see, inflation is a function of supply and demand.
government is able to see data, not just the current data, but also projections of the next few months. Data indicates that inflation will continue to moderate, and that's why we are optimistic that we will be able to meet the inflation target for the economy this year between 2.8 to 3.3%. And there are reasons for this. Part of it is because of the global economy, part of it as well because of the domestic demand, part of it is because the focus on sections of the inflation, but inflation has baskets of foods or prices. So we focus in the last few months, albeit sometimes unpopular, but we focus on the fact that restaurant and cooked meal, takeaway food, these were the main contributors to inflation. So I think it's a combination of everything, and data is showing that inflation will continue to moderate, and I think we will continue doing a combination of efforts. Part of it are structural and will take some time. We are focusing on scaling up food production capacity at local communities. We are focusing on the narratives that cooked meal prices should moderate, and as much as people perhaps don't understand what Rahmah is, why we push 2 to 3 ringgit cooked meal through vending machines, is also part and parcels to condition the public that that should be the food prices. While we can't force restaurants to lower their prices, or we can't roll out another round of subsidies or price control on coke prices, but we can create that ecosystem and environment where there is a competition in prices. I know that people say when you start really pushing for cheaper cooked meal prices to certain section of society, while it will not benefit everyone, but it also helps, in my opinion, to become a benchmark. It's a check and balance as well, so that food at restaurants, dekat gerai ni, doesn't continuously go up. Because now people know, why are you charging for this for 7 ringgit when I can get elsewhere for just 4 or 5 ringgit? So I think it's a combination of efforts. Some are market oriented, some are narratives, some are fundamentals. But altogether, we hope that this downward trend of moderating inflation will continue until the year end.
Hi YB, Tasha from Manama TV. So YB, to make sure the inflation remains being moderate, is it the government will increase the OPR?
I've repeated this so many times that I want to respect that monetary policy, which also concerns OPR, as best as possible should be left to Bank Negara, because they take a long-term view. Because imagine if minister like me makes decision on OPR every now and then, I go to functions like this guy say naik OPR, that guy say turun OPR, Politicians by nature have to deal with short-term concerns, and a lot of short-term concerns are usually emotional, whereas the trajectory of the economy, and that concerns OPR and and money supply and monetary policy. This is very long-term in nature and must be data-driven and evidence-based. By nature, politicians has to respond to emotions. And while I don't know whether it will go up or it will go down, I've maintained persistently that the monetary policy, as best as possible, unless it begins to encroach on social safety nets, unless it begins to have immediate impact on the economy, that you move away from that sweet spot between sustainability and growth, then we will have that discussion with Bank Negara. As it is, I want to respect that, and that's my position in government and outside government. We'll see how the market reacts. The debt ceiling problem in US hopefully is about to resolve. By next week it will resolve. I suppose Bank Negara will continue to monitor all these developments, and we will be updated. We will have that discussion. But the decision is not a politician's decision on day-to-day basis when we meet different groups of people differently. That is not how monetary policy should be, and that's my position that media will continue to ask. At some point, I will say, please refer to my video semalam, because it's going to be the same response throughout.
Hi, I'm Krishan from FMT News. My question is to Dr. Umar and maybe YB can comment as well. While markets around the world rallied to close higher yesterday, FDM JASIA ended in the red. So my question is, why hasn't the US debt crisis resolution brought any respite to the local market?
It's about consumer, it's about investor confidence, their mindset. What we have in Malaysia at the moment is, as Yang Muhammad shared, the nature of our business is they're looking to what's the profitability that we'll see coming from companies. So the key thing for Malaysian businesses is to get back to business and earn profits. Because why do people invest? People invest for dividends, people invest for growth. And so it's that clear line of sight to growth that we'll be seeing. So trading headwinds are not the same as debt ceiling. So we have exogenous factors such as the China-US trade tensions. Now, Malaysia, medium term, is well positioned to benefit from changes in diversification of supply chains, as Yang Berhormat touched on in his speech. So as we pivot to sustainable economy, to creating new roles and new opportunities, we're looking to see these companies come through on the exchange as well.
So just...
let me add on that. I don't invest actively in equities, so I'm not from stock analyst house, but this is my view about the last 24 hours, as the debt ceiling crisis in US being resolved. The biggest beneficiary was Asia, and hence your question. China, Japan went up, Taiwan went up, Korea went up. So on the one hand, there's a lot of excitement that as this is resolved, then you get the investor confidence in the whole global economy moving up a bit. But as Dr. Omar mentioned, so far in the first 24 hours, your question is about the last 24 hours. I just mentioned about, our job is not a snapshot and to take a long-term view. So my perspective of the long-term prospect is this. It is true that as the uncertainties in the US are resolved, you will see the pickup of interest again, especially in emerging markets as well as some markets in Asia. If and if you go through in detail, why is Korea, why is Taiwan, why is Japan? These three countries in Asia were the biggest winners yesterday. It's the same thing that Dr. Umar mentioned. It's a mix, it's the so-called the mix of economy that is reflected on the stock exchange. Korea benefited a lot because of tech. Japan benefited a lot because of they were considered to be undervalued all these years. Taiwan benefited because despite the ongoing geopolitical tensions, there's a belief that semiconductor will really pick up after this. So in that sense, you know, our march for long-term, mid-term reforms actually fit into this yearning and hunger for more value in this region when the uncertainties are resolved in the US. So we have this window of opportunity. You may not see in 24 hours or 1 week, but if we do the right thing first in the long term to make sure that our counters and the companies that offer value at Bursa tap into where the money is going. And I've mentioned this so many times, in the last 2 years, the highest investment actually went into green energy and energy transition, no longer tech. So if we position ourselves faster and better than other countries in this region, in energy transition, for example, and we start seeing all these solution providers and energy transition companies beginning to reflect on Bursa and oil market, that's the kind of things that, inshallah, I'm very confident that you will start seeing the interest back to Malaysia pouring again.
Can I add to that?
Yeah. I thought maybe I should just add on to what Minister as well as Dato' Umar has said. From the perspective of retail investors, I think it is important that we take a longer term perspective in our investment. So empowering yourself with the right knowledge to make informed investment decisions is key. As Minister have mentioned, I think this is multiple times, the focus is really in technology, renewable and food security. So he has already given you the country's direction. So as a retail investors, you may want to spend some time looking at some of those companies listed on Bursa. They are probably in this area and they may stand to gain the kind of upside, when some of these strategies are being put in place. Okay, so happy investing.
Last question?
Yes.
No, I've got to go to this fishing.
Oh, you got it with
YB, Dato' Umar, Neo from LANGSUNG, just a question for Dato' Umar. Bursa Malaysia yesterday have a press release about will take action against these listed companies who yet to appoint female directors. So what action will be taken?
Well, there's been a long lead time. So what will happen is we will engage the boards, ask what they're doing, and it'll be step by step. So it's nothing draconian, but we need to also make sure that the market understands that we're very serious about what we do. And as a market operator, I think you know, we are very serious about what we do. And hence, the first step is to engage the companies. And we have been engaging the companies before the press release, and we'll continue to do so. So one is compliance with listing rules, the other is that desire to see 30% representation in boards, which is an ongoing body of work that the exchange is taking, and talking to PLCs and chairmen and directors and boards.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So for today, our press conference will...
Hang on, they want to ask about politics. It's okay. Dari mana?
Malaysia Gazette.
Okay. Malaysia Gazette. Tak apalah, terima kasih kot. Selalu Malaysia Gazette ni clickbait sini. Saya cakap lain, dia letak headline lain selalunya.
Itulah YB, kritikan Puan Zakasi lah YB Puan Zakati.
Boleh rujuk kepada komen saya semalam. Terima kasih. Ya. Sebab dah jawab.
Thank you.
for your time.
Alright.
Yeah, I understand your next session is at 12, right?
Yeah. I got to go to the next one at 12. So, okay.
Mine's in Manila. I'm coming down.
Are we fishing?
No, I've just got to give a award to give a speech.